The garment we recognize today as the traditional Japanese kimono is the endpoint of a total structural inversion. Its modern elegance is the result of a political class reversal and a complete rejection of imported aesthetics. To establish a baseline, we look back to the Nara period in the 8th century. At this time, elite Japanese court dress was almost entirely imported from Chinese styles. Court officials wore garments defined by specific Chinese bureaucratic markers, most notably the Shichuyasu shaken official hat and robes constructed with high round collars. Compare that imported style to the Edo period kosode. This represents the fully evolved native Japanese aesthetic. The physical construction has entirely morphed. The draped, fitted, multi-layered pieces of the Nara court have collapsed into a strict, flat geometric plane. This transition tracks a very precise historical trajectory. Over centuries, practical warrior classes replaced aristocratic rules of dress. And by standardizing the actual silhouette of the garment, they forced an explosion in textile engineering. The physical evolution of Japanese dress provides a measurable record of the shift of political power over a millennia. The first major shift occurs in the Heian period, from the late 8th to 12th century. The Japanese imperial court began actively rejecting Chinese emulation to develop their own native styling. The aesthetic logic of this new era was intensely physical. The aristocracy demonstrated their wealth and status by consuming space, wearing massive, multi-layered garments to create sheer architectural volume. Look at this depiction of the era. The nobility visually dominated rooms through massive yardage of silk. Focusing on the women of the court, we see the karaginomo, commonly known today as the juni hitoe. Building this architecture requires precise layering. You start with a base layer called the kosode. Then add the pleated hakama trousers, the unlined hitoe, multiple layers of the uchiki robes, the sweeping mo skirt, and finally the short karaginu jacket on top. Male ceremonial wear operated on the exact same logic. Garments like the sokutai and nosi relied on stiffened fabrics to project a wide, imposing frame. Beneath these expansive outer layers sat the kosode, literally the small-sleeved garment. In the highly stratified Heian court, the kosode was strictly an undergarment. If it was worn visibly as an outer layer, it meant the wearer was a commoner. Antiquity measured power vertically, stacking silk to build status. The kosode was the invisible foundation. That vertical hierarchy shatters during the Kamakura and Muromachi periods. As the military class rises, status rules invert. Military pragmatism required mobility. The starched, oversized, and restrictive silhouettes of the emperor's court were useless to horseback warriors. Instead, the warriors relied on the hitatare, a simple, straight-collared garment that originated as the everyday wear of low-ranking foot soldiers. We see the hitatare documented here, worn practically alongside hakama trousers for active equestrian use. As these warriors consolidated political control, they brought their clothing with them. The practical hitatare was standardized as the new ceremonial dress for the elite. By the Sengoku period, this use of ordinary wear became the official portraiture standard. Here, a powerful local lord, a daimyo, is painted wearing the hitatare. This evolution established a new baseline for military dress, the winged katakinu vest and hakama. Stripping away the massive aristocratic layers had a secondary effect on the broader population. It exposed the base layer. The kosode emerged from its hidden status as an undergarment. It transitioned into a standalone outer layer, worn by both men and women across all classes. Political upheaval changed the fashion rules. Elite aristocratic volume was discarded, and the flat base layer of the lower classes became the national standard. This brings us to the Edo period. The flat, T-shaped kosode is now the universal everyday garment for nearly the entire population. But this creates a new economic tension. If everyone, from a merchant to a lord, wears the same physical silhouette, socioeconomic status can no longer be expressed through physical shape or layering. Look at the rigid architectural baseline of this shape. The canvas is entirely flat. To project wealth, the elite merchant classes expressed their economic power entirely through surface design. This pressure triggered the golden age of Japanese textile art. The first major technique to scale was kusuri, or ikat. This is a difficult process where individual warp and weft yarns are meticulously resist-dyed before they are ever woven together on the loom. Then came shibori, an intricate tie-dyeing technique. Artisans bound tiny sections of silk before dyeing, creating precise visual geometries that also left a three-dimensional, puckered texture on the flat silk. You can see the shibori detailing up close here, where the physical binding process leaves a permanent structural memory in the fabric. The absolute pinnacle of Edo textile chemistry was the development of yuzen and shiro-eije. These were advanced paste-resist dyeing techniques. Painting rice paste resist directly onto fabric allowed artisans to draft highly detailed painterly illustrations directly onto the silk canvas. Once the dyed canvas was set, the fabric was further engineered with intense silk embroidery, building a three-dimensional topography onto the flat surface. Here, you can see how embroidery supplements the dye work. The density of these silk threads was a direct receipt of the wearer's wealth. Artisans wove thin strips of gold leaf paper directly into the supplementary weft, turning the silk into a surface that shimmered as the wearer moved. The strict architectural standardization of the kosode acted as a forcing function. Bound by a flat T shape, Japanese textile engineering was pushed to extreme chemical and artistic complexity. By the late Edo period, these highly engineered garments were the baseline of a vibrant urban culture. The kosode operated as peak contemporary fashion, worn heavily decorated by women in urban entertainment districts like Yoshiwara. But in the late 19th century, the Meiji Restoration delivered a massive geopolitical shock. Japan rapidly opened its borders, resulting in a sudden influx of Western culture and Western clothing, known as yofuku. The streets of modernizing Japan quickly became a mix of architectural and sartorial styles, with domestic garments competing directly against imported Western tailoring. This external pressure forced the nation to construct a unified cultural identity to resist complete assimilation into Western norms. The terminology shifted. The specific term kosode was largely replaced by the broader word kimono, which literally translates simply to thing to wear. The highly decorated everyday wear of the Edo period was rigidly codified into wafuku, or national dress. The garment was embedded with new nationalistic and gendered meanings, functioning as a symbol of domestic tradition. Fast forward to the present day, and the transition is complete. What was once the ordinary, everyday clothing of the masses is now almost exclusively a high-status ceremonial piece. Today, the kimono is reserved for specific, formalized moments of cultural weight: weddings, university graduations, and coming-of-age ceremonies. The kimono represents a complete reversal of its original function. It began as a hidden undergarment, was repurposed by military pragmatism as an everyday standard, and was ultimately transformed by Western pressure into an elite ceremonial icon.